If Islamists and the radical left have diametrically opposite values and beliefs, why do they seem to be working together all over the world? Well, our guest today, who himself is a former Muslim, says it all comes down to one mutual goal. Danny Birmawi, author of Islam, Israel, and the West, joins us now. So, Danny, why are these two entities united?
Well, the radical left, they're searching for a way to accomplish their goal, to achieve their goal. And the Islamic movement, they also have a goal. And both of them found some kind of a ground to work together. I call it the flush theory. Both of them, they flush what they disagree on in order to achieve that goal. And eventually, they will clash. It happened in Iran. It happened in other countries. And we will see it happening in the West. The goal is the West. The West stands in their way, in the utopia, the imaginary utopia of the radical left, and in the way of the caliphate, the Islamic caliphate. So now the radical left, they found in Islam endless reservoir of grievance and the fury that they could weaponize against the power system in the West. And Islam found on the radical left an ally that would, facilitate their agenda in the West. Push for blasphemy laws, Islamophobia laws, things like immigration policies. So that's why they are coming together now, even though they absolutely have nothing to share except that, nothing.
That's what's confusing to, I think, a lot of folks is you look at like an Islamist goal, right? It's, let's call it for what it is. It's the subjugation of other religions, the subjugation of women, the subjugation of LGBTQ, whatever you might say. And then the radical left is kind of the exact opposite. It's how can we promote LGBTQ stuff as much as humanly possible? How can we almost do away with religion? It seems like not only do they not have a lot in common, they have nothing in common. So how are they practically working together? Like what's happening on the ground in say Western Europe and the United States?
Well, it's really very easy. First of all, they turned Islam into a race. Islam is not a race. Islam is an ideology. But they made it like a race so that they will force you not to criticize, not to scrutinize Islam at all. This is number one. Number two, they presented Islam as minority, brown people, oppressed, even though Islam is not a minority. They are the majority. There are 2 billion people. And they selectively ignore the colonization history of Islam. They don't talk about that. In their imagination, the West is the only colonization power, imperialist, and they want to dismantle the Western governments in order to bring their imaginary utopia, as I said. So they don't care about the history of Islam, the conquest from India to Spain. 360 million people is the estimate number of casualties as a direct result of Islamic conquest, historically speaking. So they don't care about that at all. It's only the Christian West that is imperialist, that is colonial, and if they could use Islam now, why not? On the other hand, Islam is also using them. It's like in Islam, we know no tolerance toward LGBTs, no tolerance. It's like woman is subjugated, is oppressed, historically speaking, and from a theological perspective. So now the left are pushing for these agendas. They don't care. Let's just use them because they are making our mission easier and easier. They push for policies that would eventually serve us. And this has been happening since the beginning of the Arab-Israeli conflict. The so-called Palestinian cause was actually manufactured by the Islamic movement in order to mask their ambition to reestablish the caliphate in a way that they avoid any clash with the semi-secular Arab leaders, the dictators who embraced the nation state. That cause, the Islamic cause, was used by everyone. The Bolsheviks, since the beginning, the Bolsheviks created what is so-called the Soviet Islam. And now the radical left is reviving that Islam, that special kind of Islam, in order to attack the West.
Well, us Christians in the West, there's this kind of sentiment where, we're in the modern, we're in 2025, we're beyond the Middle Ages, like, guys, get with the program. But you, as a former Muslim, as someone who studied the Islamist movement, the Muslim Brotherhood and whatnot, they haven't forgotten, right? When we think of Spain, they think of Andalusia. When they think, sometimes people forget that the Islamic world almost made it to Vienna. There was a point, we talk about Charlemagne, where there was a point where the existence of Christianity in Europe was hanging in the balance. But for a lot of, I think, folks in the West, it's like, okay, you're talking about ancient history. No one in the Islamic world really wants to establish a caliphate. No one wants to conquer Spain and conquer Israel and conquer all these Dar Islam, these lands that used to be Islamic. But can you maybe take us behind the curtain? What do these fundamental Islamic theologians, thinkers, what do they actually believe, and what is their goal?
I understand that in the West, people don't seem to get how our word in the Islamic world is shaped. We have different definition for words we both use. So I understand that you keep saying, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the West in general, keep saying radical Islam, political Islam, Islamism. Yeah, say whatever you want, it's Islam. In Islam, the land belongs to the religion. The land belongs to Allah. For example, in Christianity, the land doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to the people, to the nation. But in Islam, we don't have that concept. The land belongs to Allah. All earth belongs to Allah. And eventually, everyone in the world will be subjugated to Islam. So the idea that Spain was once an Islamic land and it's not an Islamic land anymore is a theological crisis in Islam. The same thing with Israel. So, and of course, we are seeing now a new kind of jihad to reestablish the caliphate, and this is a policy jihad. So they're trying to infiltrate, and I'm talking here about Islamic movements. Not every Muslim embraces that, but they are conditioned to work alongside this agenda because the religion itself demands that. So, no, the people in the West need to understand that this is a civilizational war. And yes, Islam wants to subjugate the whole earth. Everyone must eventually bow and submit to Islam.
Well, we're going to obviously have to have you back on because you are a wealth of information and insight. Before I let you go, you have a book, I'm pretty sure, that comes out this week called Islam, Israel, and the West. What is the main thesis? What's the main idea you're trying to communicate with this book?
So basically, in the book, I'm trying to explain to the Western audience in particular the difference between Islam as a religion and other religions. By showing that Islam is a political project. It's not only private faith kind of religion that was hijacked by some groups. No, Islam at its core is a political project. I also explain the Arab-Israeli conflict from a unique perspective. I haven't seen it discussed pretty much anywhere. And I also speak about the nature of the threat that Islam poses to the West, because I keep hearing people, they're afraid of Sharia law and morality police on the streets of Western cities, and that's not the nature of the threat. The threat is about your rights as an individual, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the intrinsic value of a human being. In Islam, your value is determined by your religious affiliation, not by being created in the image of God. So these values that have built the West are not compatible with what Islam brings to the West. So basically, that's what the book is talking about.
Well, again, I want to hear your testimony. I know my friend watching this wants to hear your testimony, but we'll do that maybe in part 2. Your life growing up in Jordan as a Muslim. We want to hear all of that. We'll do that again here soon. But as for now, Danny, I appreciate your time and God bless, my friend.
Thank you so much.